Hey, Bobo. Do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, a few names in between there as well. Other pages even on those platforms we're on as well. But however you're able to find us, see the video, all that good stuff is the right place for you as we continue our mission to have live local talk radio here in the Borderland. Austin Redfern and Ida Beza Gardner joining us already and chiming in over on primarily the Facebook. You can chime in on a bunch of pages. Those likes and reacts are primarily on the Facebook page. Is this because, well, that's how that works. A few people leaving those already. Richard Janicek, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Ida Beza Gardner. Do appreciate that. You can leave those throughout the show. Of course, the comments as well, if you really want to get into the issues. Throughout, one of the better ways you can comment on the program and everything we do. What's a shorthand for jam-packed show for you? I mean, it's pretty short, but I feel like I need to switch it up here. We got a lot going on today. How about that? Does that one work for you? Because not that there's ever like nothing. Again, if it's going to be a sad and weird day if I'm ever like, yeah, nothing's going on, guys. Sorry. Yeah, check back tomorrow. No, that's not the case here because we got a lot, including some dramatic scenes being seen. Interestingly enough, a lot of the coverage coming from the Mexican side of the border you can see UTEP in the background and a line of both vehicles and CBP officers responding to some attempted border crossing happening in that area that is kind of in that, well, I'm not going to call it a no man's land because, again, I still reject the invasion analogy, and using kind of military terms like that lends itself to it. But a group of people attempting to cross the border from the Mexican side, the very specifically, and one of the weird things about this one is the response mounted to it, but also the fact that they were carrying, and not even just flags, but large flags, but we'll get into that here as well. So as I have RJ, I'm assuming you're announcing that means that you voted, asking for the ding there. So if you are correct, and I am interpreting you correct there you go. Thank you for voting. I actually did vote myself this weekend, and to that point, we'll also be getting into more of our election coverage today. Was able to speak a little bit earlier, so we also have Eric von Holstein-Rathlow. Hope you had a great weekend as well over on the Facebook page. Got to have a chance to speak over the weekend, specifically with Tony Gonzales, Congressman Tony Gonzales, Republican representing the Texas 23rd Congressional District. His interview on today about some of his priorities and even recent responses, of course, involving his campaign and some of the bigger issues as well. Okay. And Ida Beza Gardner clarifying a question that came up last week, saying that heard afterwards there was a question for me, answer about school, saying went to school in Odessa and college here in El Paso. So for those wondering about high school and things like that, yeah, I know that often comes up. The time someone says you're from El Paso, you can just about guarantee the next question will be which high school you went to. For the record, I went to Franklin, just if anyone's wondering. Not that that's trying to steal your thunder or anything, but thank you for the update. Do appreciate it. Again, if you want to go back and see any of our previous candidate interviews, nominee interviews, election interviews in general, whatever their actual title is, you can go, of course, to social media. Facebook is pretty good. I would actually say YouTube is better for the playbacks, if only because it's a little bit more neutral on if you're logged in or not. YouTube just wants the views. Facebook wants everything, but that's a separate issue. Here's also Louis Pinato chiming in there. So again, border issues, election interviews, as well as interesting developments potentially for let's just say Sunland Park, the city of Sunland Park, trying to do some revitalization thing. Juan Carlos Escobar Lazo, or JC there, go Cougars. Thank you very much as well. Appreciate that. And also, I mean, just Sunland Park looking to maybe turn into, the city of Sunland Park looking to do some revitalization, some revamping, some refocusing on entertainment. But could there be a whole entertainment district or swath, maybe would be a better way to put it, being kind of in the works on El Paso's west side, with Edgar Ortiz also on board with us there. So again, keep those comments coming. One of the better ways to chime in throughout the show, and a lot to get to today. We'll be taking calls a little bit later on the program, as we usually do, but a lot to get to in the meantime here. So starting right off with some of the details out so far from our news partners over there at KFOX 14. Again, dramatic scenes. They've got the video up right now saying migrants carrying Venezuelan flag attempt to cross border stopped by Border Patrol. The title of the article that you can find there again overall with our news partners, kfoxtv.com. And I call it dramatic for a very specific reason, because, and also the reporter they have on there retweeting some of the footage, again, interestingly enough, largely taken from the Mexican side, some of their news stations on top of it. They're getting the video as it was that, again, very, well, we usually don't get this much of and good of a view of it. A dozen or couple dozen, on the order of dozens of people attempting to cross the border from the Mexican side to the U.S. side. And again, this being one of the more unusual parts here, carrying large, and I do mean large flags, like 3 times man height is kind of what it looks like based on the dude holding it. One, obviously Venezuelan, at least one other that's, it's not unfurled, so it's a little bit hard to see exactly what it is, but it looks vaguely maybe Argentinian flag colors, but don't say for sure that it's an Argentinian flag. It's blue and white. That much I can tell. So it's a little bit hard to tell because it's not unfurled, but happening earlier today, at least maybe early this afternoon, if not late this morning. And so this was repelled by a couple dozen CBP officers and agents, some both in office gear, but some in mostly tactical gear, and at least a couple responding with what is being referred to as crowd control projectiles. Some reports from other regional news stations coming in as some gas or smoke being deployed, and rubber bullets in other cases here. So this attempted crossing being driven back across the border from this, showing people sliding down the banks as, well, one of the more stark examples of enforcement having happened. Now, again, I fully stand by kind of in general repelling the idea of the language of invasion and of warfare of this, but I gotta say, there being flags and people trying to cross from one country into another with flags not of the country they're crossing into hits a certain way. I gotta say that Edgar Ortiz saying, yeah, if they're coming to America, shouldn't they be waving the stars and stripes? And again, it's not even like a little flag. It's a big flag that one dude was carrying there. Like, seriously, at least 10, 15, maybe even 20 feet long there. Maybe a Mexican flag. So a bunch of flags being carried, again, one flipping huge one. And so there's some longer video from our news partners, sourced specifically from KINT, as they were apparently already over on the U.S. side and approached by CBP agents and then essentially taken or forced back across the border, might be the better way to put it here. So again, that's a developing story here. And of course, this does come, the surrounding circumstances here that there have been a decrease in crossings, or decrease in allowed crossings anyway, after the change in enforcement with Title 42 announced by the Biden administration in recent weeks, particularly when it has the change in the, data that we can see locally here from the City of El Paso's migrant crisis dashboard. Again, you want to see this data for yourself, elpasotexas.gov/migrant-crisis, showing that, it was markedly down the last 2 weeks from one of the more eye-popping ones, that community releases by calendar week, a recent high during week 44, so about a month and a half ago, of 6,804, down to in the following week 5,822, in the last couple of weeks in the 3,700 range, and as so far this week at 360. So down markedly, but also showing that the CBP in custody rolling 7-day average after going down significantly from about 4,500 in week 41 to about 2,400. Looking at the number closer there in week 42, it's begun to rebound a bit again. So still definitely a volatile situation and a lot of moving parts there. The city of El Paso's, of course, major efforts, including busing, shelters, etc., have largely ceased. Again, the Migrant Welcome Center, that data, again, city of El Paso, this time not commenting or reflected here, the county data that daily migrants received from CBP, daily NGO shelters served, daily charters, and daily migrants served at the Welcome Center. Those data and tallies number all at zero. Again, according to elpasotexas.gov/migrant-crisis. RJ saying that flag tips a horse over. That's, sure. You know what? I'll go with that. Again, it's a big flag. Looks like it's maybe not the heaviest thing, so maybe not weight-wise, but size-wise, yeah, it's significant, and that one very obviously a Venezuelan flag, which is an interesting there. And Juan Carlos Escobar Lazo saying, what a coincidence, the news were there at the exact moment the group attempted to rush the line. I'm not sure that calling it rushing the line would be accurate here. They were largely standing around as CBP officers then began to respond and push them back. So they were already across, technically, at this point. Again, I'm going to eschew the language of invasion or military terms here because they were walking until they were then being, largely repelled by, again, CBP officers being the ones largely mentioned as being credited with this particular action. Now, of course, there may be others involved there. There was a lot of green uniforms there, of course, CBP, Border Patrol, similar-ish and under, of course, the Department of Homeland Security, but different duties technically. But, I think there's going to be a lot more focused on this. And Louis Panado not believing the government statistics, but let's just say you should at least know what the government statistics are before choosing to disagree with them. Knowledge, disagreeing from ignorance, not a good look. Let's just say that. So you can disagree with those stats all you want, but at least know what they are, I guess. Anyway, more comments coming in. Eric Von Holstein Rathlow as well, quoting a quote from Teddy Roosevelt in Immigration 1907, a little bit too long to show on screen. But of course, you can check out those comments and a whole lot more over on our social media, Facebook there specifically, but them also coming in from YouTube. Twitter's more of a DM thing, and we also get those Twitch comments as well if you decide to do so. So got to take that first break of this hour right now. Coming out of this break, not exactly talking about this situation, but, related ones in its own way, as we do speak, again, in our pre-recorded interview with the Texas 23rd Congressional District Representative Tony Gonzales, Republican, representing and seeking re-election for that district. So that interview coming up after this break. Again, you are tuned into Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. More comments online. We'll get to those and pop them up as they're more or less relevant to the interview we got coming up, and of course more later in the show, plus phone lines a little bit later as well. All that and more. Stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound after Yarborough, finally one right lane has opened up there. That freeway was closed westbound I-10 for a while. 3 left lanes blocked, still a huge backup, 57-minute delays and a backup to before the loop. I-10 eastbound at Porfirio Diaz, 3 vehicle accident up on the left shoulder. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
As you crunch the numbers trying to get the most out of your dollar, we'll throw in a $1,000 inflation bonus. Much better. Listen every hour from 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays for your chance to win $1,000.
Listen to win $1,000 every hour, weekdays from 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. It's the 1,000 inflation bonus on News Talk 690 a.m.
This report is sponsored by News Nation. Chris Cuomo is back with a new show on a new network. Catch Cuomo weeknights on News Nation at 6 and 9 p.m. Mountain. To find News Nation on your television provider, go to newsnationnow.com/join us.
A lot of things have changed with the real estate market this year. Hi, it's Glenn. But with Brian Birds of eXp Realty, you don't have to worry about whether it's a seller's market or a buyer's market, because Brian's exclusive options and unique strategies make the market work for you, whatever's going on. Brian spends 25 times more on marketing than most agents make in a year. That means he's going to get your home sold faster and for more money, because the potential buyers will see your home. And that is what creates demand, which gets you faster result and top dollar. In fact, he guarantees to sell it or he'll buy it himself. Another great option you need to sell quickly is Brian's instant cash offer. No showings, open houses, no hassle, just money in your pocket. Brian Birds is the agent that I would trust in El Paso. Besides that, well over 400 people have given Brian a 5-star Google review. You can read them by Googling Brian Birds. That's Brian, B-U-R-D-S, or check out brianbirds.com.
When it comes to our judges, experience and qualifications matter. Justice Jeff Alley at the 8th Court of Appeals graduated in the top 10% of his law school class. He practiced law for 29 years before coming to the Court of Appeals, where he has been for the last 8 years. The only candidate in this race who is board certified in civil appellate law. A principled conservative who fairly applies the law as written. We need to keep Justice Jeff Alley at the 8th Court of Appeals.
Political ad paid for by Justice Jeff Alley in accordance with the voluntary limits of the Judicial Campaign Fairness Act.
The big election is next week, and tonight Rob Schmidt is on Newsmax talking about the real issues the big media won't. Inflation, a border in crisis, parents' rights, the woke agenda, and a lot more. Rob Schmidt speaks with the candidates that will change America. Find out who's winning in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Nevada, Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, North Carolina, New Hampshire, and many other places. Watch Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax. Millions are switching to Newsmax. Make the switch today.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. However, you may be tuning in, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. A lot of people commenting and chiming in over there. Of course, election season is, well, we're in the depth of it now. I went out and voted on Saturday. Honestly, pleasantly surprised. It was, decently close to when the polls opened, and there was a lot of people in there. Went to the Doris Van Doren Public Library, and a little bit of a wait, a little bit of a line. That is not something I've had to do in most of the recent elections I've been participating in or been able to, depending on your district there. And Calvin Williams saying that, yes, he got his free finger condom for going out to vote there. Got my little baggie here as well. With that, the Q-tip, I was a little bit disappointed in this I voted sticker. I mean, I always like a good I voted sticker, but I was missing the local ones. I guess we run out or they don't apply for this election in any case. There's the bell for you. But, of course, continuing our coverage, we have more candidate interviews with you. This is going to be not quite closing out our congressional coverage, but we'll be pivoting a little bit more later this week into some of our more local races, specifically including those with, say, city council and such. But was able to speak again, as I mentioned, over the weekend with Tony Gonzales, Republican representing the Texas 23rd Congressional District, to get his opinion and his stance on, well, some of the issues currently facing the district, of course, his platform, and even some of the ones that are, well, related to what we've done here already. Don't worry, Angel, I've already chimed the bell for myself here and anyone else that did go out and vote over the weekend. Thank you for doing so. The other point I want to get to that here about polling that I've been reached out to about, but more on that maybe a little bit later. In any case, again, interview right now with, again, Tony Gonzales representing the Texas 23rd Congressional District. Here is that interview. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Congressman Tony Gonzales representing the Texas 23rd Congressional District as a Republican. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Great. Thank you for having me back on.
Absolutely happy to check in with you, particularly as we are inching closer to Election Day. Now, of course, you are running for re-election after your term of office here, representing the 23rd Congressional District, which, for those who are unfamiliar, is this very large district stretching from, well, the entire eastern border of El Paso County and many of the unincorporated parts surrounding it, all the way to the outskirts of San Antonio, including many areas such as Big Bend, outskirts of the Permian Basin, and some other areas that have had a lot of discussion in them and would be recognizing them from regional news. A lot of border and a lot of open territory. So for those that are unfamiliar with yourself or maybe newly in your district since the previous election, can you kind of reintroduce yourself and talk about some of the major reasons you are running again for office?
Yeah, it's been my honor to serve the 23rd Congressional District of Texas. I spent 20 years in the Navy before serving in Congress. This is I'm finishing up my first term. The district stretches from El Paso County, all the way to Bexar County in San Antonio, 823 miles of the southern border. We've been able to accomplish a lot of different things. One is help veterans. I spent 20 years in the Navy. I get my health care through the VA. One of the things that we were able to do in El Paso County is appropriate $700 million for a new veterans hospital. I'm really proud about that. Oftentimes, veterans in West Texas are completely forgotten, and we want to be able to change that. So that's one of our platforms. Another one is securing the southern border. And I've seen this border crisis go from bad to worse with no end in sight. So it's time that we enforce the laws that are already on the books.
Absolutely here. So, of course, on that point there, on immigration has, of course, been a hot button topic in our area. And, of course, we've seen recent and maybe trailing off stats will bear that out over time here. Of course, what has been going on with this particular inflection point, this particular crisis, surge, however you want to describe it here. But when it comes to then policy about then dealing with this, because of course there are other parts of your district that have had, Del Rio and other places like that have seen their own inflection points, their own surges in their own ways. So given the experience that you have had, what are some of the policies that you are looking to put into place if again elected to another term of Congress here?
So there's 823 miles of the southern border. Every mile is different than the next. I'm actually in Del Rio right now, and we've seen this crisis just consume everything that it touches. And so one of the things is, look, our district is a beautiful district, and a lot of people don't realize these border communities, whether it's El Paso, whether it's Presidio, Eagle Pass, Del Rio, there is two communities, or one community in two countries. Half of it is in Mexico, half of it in the United States, but it's ultimately one community. So one of the things that I've been pushing for is when you have security, everyone deserves to feel safe in their own homes, regardless of where you live. So when you have security, you can then have a thriving environment where it encourages trade and commerce and economic development. So security is at the forefront of it. Without security, you have chaos, and people don't feel safe, and people don't want to invest. The other aspect of it, too, is oftentimes our border communities are overlooked and they're forgotten. Infrastructure in particular, whether it's expanding bridges or whether it's encouraging those to come invest, all these are very important aspects to our district.
Absolutely. And of course, given that also includes the Big Bend area, one of those significant portions of the several hundred mile span that we're talking about within the Texas 23rd Congressional District, physical barriers have often been a bit of a contentious point in their own way, given the geography of those regions and some of the very varied geography that we see throughout the border region. So when it comes to any physical security aspects that you're looking at here, what do you feel best applies, or what would you be pushing for if we get a next term of office when it comes to, again, methods of doing that securing?
Yeah, look, walls work. And what you're seeing right now is even the Biden administration agrees with that. And they're starting to fill in some of the holes in the various different barriers. But the other part of it, too, there are parts, you made up a great point. There's parts of the district that a wall doesn't work. So it just depends. A lot of it, oftentimes you use a wall or use a barrier to funnel traffic and to be able to handle the vastness of the border. And I think you can do it in a manner that says we believe in security, but yet we still are warm and welcome to those that want to come and visit and travel and work. The reality is we have shortages in every single industry. One of the things is it's been difficult in this political environment, but be able to push, hey, we can have both security and prosperity. We can have both a secure border as well as a work visa program that encourages those to come and fill some of these jobs. It doesn't have to be either or.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Tony Gonzales, Republican representing the Texas 23rd Congressional District. Any more information about him, the policies we are discussing, and his platform, TonyGonzalesForCongress.com. That is TonyGonzales for Congress.com here. So related then to kind of prosperity and that the economy has been being widely pointed out as one of the major issues that is likely to be at the top of mind for many voters as they approach the ballot box leading up to November 8th. So when it comes to some of the specific points that you're wanting to look at, again, affecting this district, there's a lot wrapped up in it, but what are some of the major policies you are wanting to push forward when it comes to economy, jobs, and related for another term of office?
Yeah, Americans deserve an economy that's strong. And part of a strong economy is, I mean, we're seeing right now what the cost of goods has risen. You know, I was talking with a small business owner who owns a restaurant, and he was telling me, hey, Tony, last year it would cost me $25 for a box of lettuce. A year later, it's costing me $100. This is 4 times the increase. And you're seeing that all over the place, those same stories. And so how do you combat that? One is we have to stop with the giveaways. I mean, there's nothing free about giving away money. It comes at a cost. And we're seeing what that cost is. That cost is rising inflation. The other thing too is energy prices are at the foundation of anything. And I believe we can have both a safe environment and a robust, independent energy policy. So I think that's what you're going to see House Republicans push for.
Particularly on energy, then, well, of course, the district includes some of the outskirts and some of what is considered the Permian Basin area, one of the, at least for our region here, major energy production based on fossil fuel areas. And there's been a lot of volatility that can be seen in that sector, kind of a boom or bust situation where sometimes there is beyond 100% occupancy of housing within those areas. And then when markets change and fall, given the volatility of prices there and what Americans are feeling, walking into our interview today, noted that we're looking at diesel not quite double the cost of regular unleaded out in some of the areas I was driving through. So when it comes to specifically energy policy, particularly as it relates to the economy, what are some of the focuses that you're wanting to push for there?
Look, parts of this district are very rural. And, you know, in rural West Texas, you know, even if you wanted to, you can't drive a Tesla to haul hay or to carry heavy oil tools or equipment. You know, you need a pickup truck, and oftentimes that pickup truck is a diesel, and the cost of diesel is a lot more expensive than unleaded right now. And this is impacting blue collar, hardworking Americans. The other aspect of it too is oftentimes, you know, you can't take the subway to work. I mean, you have to get in your truck and you have to drive 30, 40 miles one way. And so all that has a cost to it. Oftentimes, many of these people are just trying to live their lives, and, you know, they're blue collar Americans. And we as policymakers, we owe it to them to make sure that we always have the back of blue collar America. And that's why I think it's important that we keep some of these costs down.
Some of the specific questions that have come up involving oil and gas production, again, particularly within the larger region we're in here, has been about the way companies are either dealing with it or also the permitting process. Any specifics that you'd like to pursue on those about essentially the availability or the follow through with, you know, extended drilling, more production, more supply being made available that could be done from, again, the position in Congress?
You know, the number one thing that I don't think people are talking about, everyone talks about drilling more, and I get that. Or pipelines having accessibility. I get that as well. But to me, I think there is something that could ultimately pass and people would agree on, is to expand the capacity at some of the refineries. So oftentimes we have a choke point where there hasn't been a new refinery in decades. Mm-hmm. And so while I don't think there's going to be a new refinery anytime soon, just to expand the capacity at some of the existing refineries would be helpful. I mean, I'll give you an example. I visited the Kinder Morgan natural gas facility in El Paso a couple of weeks ago, and it's a relatively small environment or a small refinery there. But I think expanding some of the capacity ultimately lowers prices, and this is someone not a lot of people are talking about. And it gets away from, you know, some of the other regulatory issues that you see across the board.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Tony Gonzales, congressional representative for the Texas 23rd Congressional District as a Republican. Again, details on him, the policies we are talking about, and more. Tony Gonzales for Congress.com. That's TonyGonzalesFOR Congress.com. And back on the immigration question, want to backtrack a little bit on that because, of course, given the fact that there has been a lot of, again, those inflection points, those surges we have seen in different areas over the last couple of years now, whenever we're talking about the larger region, including your district there, of course, that has seen a lot of local response being needed. And one of the particular issues being discussed within the city of El Paso and the county as well lately has been reimbursements, particularly from the federal government, and the need for it as we're looking on the order of tens of millions of dollars being spent here, maybe not more than a 10 million, but overall combined between both more than $10 million is what's being estimated at this point, with including reimbursements, some operating funds having already been spent here, but a lot of on busing and those kind of things. So what are some of the things that you would want to focus on when it comes to that, of the federal funds reimbursing local expenditures for immigration and border security issues, if again in the next term?
This is what I see is this is a 100% an issue caused by the federal government, caused by some of the failed policies that the White House has implemented. And what I see is these communities that are impacted. I mean, right now, El Paso is getting the brunt of it. But, you know, in the past year and a half, it's really been Eagle Pass and Del Rio, some of the other parts of the district. What I see is the city comes to the rescue, not because they have a choice. They have no other choice but to solve the problem. And the federal government is writing them an IOU, and it's only getting worse and worse. And good luck getting an IOU from the federal government. That's one part. The other part I see is there is an aspect that that does not have a financial number on it. And I'll give you an example. Many times these NGOs, these non-government organizations that oftentimes are helping homeless veterans, or they're helping those with drug addiction, or they're helping, you know, young pregnant teenagers, or they're just the homeless. They're helping all these different areas. I've seen these NGOs get consumed with this border crisis, and they're no longer helping our vulnerable in our community. I've also seen where cities, and this is currently happening in El Paso, where the fire department is no longer fighting fires or responding to EMS. They're the ones operating in this migrant center. So how do you put a price tag on some of these things that a city or a community loses out on? This is what I worry about when you have an extended crisis like what we see right now at the border.
Kind of related to that note here, of course, feel the need to address some recent statements that you have made involving previous public safety and public servant responses, particularly that in Uvalde. You have specifically been calling for the resignation for the head of the Department of Public Safety, again, Texas State Trooper and related agencies here in Texas. Can you talk a little bit about what you were saying and why you were coming to that conclusion?
Yeah, Andrew, and where I'm almost out of time here. I will say, you know, I grew up partly in Camp Wood, Texas, about 38 miles from Uvalde. And so when Uvalde happened, it was very personal to me. And I've seen our hearts get pulled out in that community. And look, El Paso is a community that knows this situation like this similarly. And one of the things is the community has to come together, and we ultimately have to make sure that our kids are safe. And one of the things that I've done is we've helped pass millions of dollars in federal grants to increase school safety, as well as to increase mental health access. One, and just promoting more mental health resources for those in the community. The other aspect of it is this: we have initiated a little over $5.4 million community project to issue communications radios. You know, one of the things that really didn't make it out is, you know, the crisis, the first responders, one of the difficulties that they had was they all weren't on the same radio network. I mean, can you imagine firefighters are on one network and EMS is on another, and local PD is on another, and Border Patrol is on another? So one of the things that we have been pushing, and this is, I mean, it's being initiated in Uvalde, but you could literally duplicate it everywhere because the need is there, is to ensure all first responders are on the same radio network. We've been advocated for that. You know, I've got a $5.4 million community project to address that. So All right, Andrew, I appreciate the time and thank you. I look forward to chatting and catching up soon.
Again, thank you to, Congressman Tony Gonzales, Republican representing the Texas 23rd Congressional District, joining us in this pre-recorded interview in order to talk about some of the big issues he sees both in the district and as part of his campaign platform here. Always more to get to, but we try to squeeze in as much of the information for y'all as we can. Again, anyone unclear on the concept here, we want to hear from the candidates, get their perspective, and then we can talk about it. That's kind of always the way our format's been. So, got issue with that? Welcome to the show. Thanks for listening for the first time, apparently. But in any case, got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, talking about at least one other local non-election thing, but also a statement just in that we'll get to related to some of the other situations, including the border incident that happened earlier today. That we'll reference all that and more coming up after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. A Las Cruces man has been sentenced for his part in a kidnapping where the victim was repeatedly stabbed with a machete. A judge sentenced 37-year-old Fernando Angel Puga, a.k.a. Cholo, last week to 372 months in prison, which amounts to 31 years. In 2017, Puga and another man asked a food truck driver for help because their car had supposedly broken down and they needed a ride. They ended up kidnapping the man after pulling a gun on him and informing him of their real intentions. The other man pleaded guilty and is serving time in federal prison. And after ranking 7th nationwide in best cities for veterans in a study by Veterans United Home Loans, El Paso County plans to celebrate its claim as the, quote, veterans capital of the USA. The study compared the 100 most populated U.S. cities across 4 key dimensions: economic wellness, employment, availability of veteran affairs benefits, and quality of life for veterans. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Monster delays on Halloween on I-10 westbound after a crash after Yarborough Drive, blocking 3 left lanes, only the far right lane getting by. Right now, there's 61-minute delays from the Loop to the 54 Patriot. I-10 eastbound is slow just by people slowing down to check out the wreck. 10-minute delays between the Patriot and the Loop. I-10 eastbound at Porfirio Diaz, 3 vehicle accidents up on the left shoulder. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. A chilly night on tap for the Borderland, even for those late night trick-or-treaters. But as we get going into our Tuesday, we are expecting to have a beautiful day. Temperatures back in the mid-70s, and we're staying that way at least for the next few days until our next weather maker begins to bring back some winds, a little moisture, and cooler temperatures. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
This report is paid for by the Texans for Greg Abbott.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
Beto O'Rourke stands with radical groups who want to defund the police. Governor Abbott stands with law enforcement so they can keep Texas families safe. Greg Abbott, governor.
Politicians have led us down the wrong path. Record inflation and cost of living, unsafe border communities, a war on oil and gas jobs. Enough is enough. Catherine Parker will uphold our Texas values. A successful businesswoman and rancher, Catherine Parker will lower inflation and our cost of living. Catherine Parker will work to permanently lower your property taxes. Catherine Parker will stand up to the radicals who threaten our values and put our families in harm's way. Catherine Parker will secure our border communities and fully fund border security. Catherine Parker will stand with law enforcement and against those who want to defund our police, because our communities deserve to be safe. And Catherine Parker will defend the oil and gas jobs that power our communities. Truth, freedom, prosperity. Vote Catherine Parker for District 74 on November 8th. Political ad paid for by Catherine Parker Campaign.
Talk El Paso, bringing you the biggest stories from the Borderland and beyond, 4 to 6 p.m. every weekday, brought to you in part by Sergio Lewis Body Shop. Call the pros at 915-593-0191. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday at 4, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
Beto O'Rourke stands with radical groups who want to defund the police. Governor Abbott stands with law enforcement so they can keep Texas families safe. Greg Abbott, governor.
This report is paid for by the Texans for Greg Abbott.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in over there, including Louis Pinado, Eric McNagg, Flaco Jimenez, Angel Rueda, as requested, RJ, Maria Coleman, there's Eric Ron Holstein Rathlow, if I didn't already, Richard Janicek, and Calvin Williams, whole lot more, including some questioning of official stats here. Again, welcome to do so. If you're not able to say, I wonder about the validity of this, that's not actually discussion, that's just taking things, but still find it useful to at least know what we're disagreeing with in the first place. So again, it's a baseline. If you got other stats, please bring them up. Appreciate to do so, even if definitely got me with the one line here, looking for it, and a lot of comments have come in there, because it almost got me, there, Eric von Holstein Rathlow earlier, there are lies, damn lies, and then statistics. I need a lot of signs. I probably just need a wall full of all of the different phrases that live in my head and come up constantly for me. That would definitely be one of them. Just probably a book of Mark Twain sayings, because that's how it works out there. But also those chiming in or dropping those likes and reacts that we do appreciate. We do, of course, have Flaco Jimenez, Calvin Williams, Carla Sierra, Angel Rueda, Angel Rueda, sorry, Ed Clore, Richard Janicek, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Ida Beza Gardner. Do appreciate it, as it helps us with all of those algorithmic things. In case you want to add your comments over there, can do so. Opening up those phone lines here in just a little bit. And one of the things I want to say here, actually, just into our account and newsroom here, almost immediately as we got into that last interview, related to the story we're discussing at the top of the program here today on that incident happening right at the border, and what that is and what that might mean. Statement from the CBP, Office of Public Affairs for the El Paso sector of U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Quote, on October 31st at approximately 12:20 p.m., a group of Venezuelan nationals attempting to illegally enter the United States while protesting along the Rio Grande River international boundary near downtown El Paso. One of the protesters assaulted an agent with a flagpole, at which time agents responded by initiating crowd control measures. These measures included the use of authorized less lethal force pepper ball launching systems. The crowd then dispersed and returned to Mexico. Customs and Border Protection's Office of Professional Responsibility will review the incident. This situation is still ongoing. Further information will be provided as it becomes available. That makes sense here. I mean, again, there was a lot of varying things coming out of local media about the methods being used, but in the video, again, news partners over at KFOX 14 have a decent view coming in from the KINT on the opposite side of the Rio Grande, the Mexican side, showing what are pretty clearly looking like a couple of paintball-looking things by the officers most in the front, I guess, of that response there. And, of course, the pepper ball system being kind of basically like a paintball, except instead of just paint inside, it's something meant to elicit a negative response along the lines of, it's not exactly pepper spray, but capsaicin based and, irritating in that way in order to get people to disperse. So that very much can be seen in the video. Again, more details coming up later this evening from our news partners there at KFOX 14. So make sure to check that out, and we'll bring more details as it comes out. So that's of interest. And the fact that it started as a protest makes the slightest bit more sense, even if there's some further questions about this. But tell you what, we're going to go ahead and take that break now. Still getting into one of the other non-election and non-border stories a little bit later in the show as we are, but let's get back on track with it here, as the previous interview went a little bit longer than we intended. But we'll go ahead and open up those phone lines as we usually do at this point during the program here. If you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier crash, I-10 westbound after Yarborough Drive exit is still blocking 3 left lanes, causing a huge backup. Now another new accident, I-10 westbound at Zaragoza, blocking the right lane. Stop and go traffic on the I-10 westbound from the Loop to the Patriot. It's a 47-minute delay. 7-minute delays I-10 eastbound from the Patriot to the Loop, and an injury accident Gateway West after Sumac Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is paid for by the Texans for Greg Abbott.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
Beto O'Rourke stands with radical groups who want to defund the police. Governor Abbott stands with law enforcement so they can keep Texas families safe. Greg Abbott, Governor.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
3D printing, cyber defense, robotics, automation. This is advanced manufacturing, and it's El Paso's next frontier. One that our region has been building for years, and it's shaping us to be the hub for what the future holds, bringing a new era of progressive education, future-forward jobs, and higher wages. The next chapter starts now. Visit elpasotexas.gov/next frontier to see how our story unfolds.
If you qualify for Medicare and Medicaid, El Paso Health Plus is for you. We offer great supplemental benefits for those with Medicare and Medicaid. El Paso Health Plus. Call 833-742-3125 or visit ephmedicare.com.
Gabriel Vasquez is too extreme for New Mexico. This is Matt Schlapp, chairman of CPAC Action PAC. By supporting 87,000 new IRS agents, trillions in new government spending, and stimulus checks for criminals and illegals, Democrats put loyalty to Biden, Pelosi, and Sanders above the needs of your family. Democrats are wrong on the border. They repeatedly oppose closing the border, leading to more human trafficking, drug smuggling, and violent crime. Democrats are also extremists on abortion, supporting unregulated abortion, even in the last trimester, funded by taxpayers. Let's send Washington, D.C. socialists a message. Gabriel Vasquez is wrong for New Mexico.
Paid for by CPAC Action PAC, not affiliated with any candidate or candidate committee. www.cpacactionpac.com.
Staples is your one-stop destination for shipping supplies and services. And right now, get 50% off shipping boxes, mailers, or tubes when you buy 5 of the same item. Offer ends 12/31. Exclusions apply. Visit staplesconnect.com/shipping for details. Staples, the best kept secret in shipping.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of comments coming in over online there. Again, dropping those likes and reacts just briefly that way. Calvin Williams, Angel Rueda, Ed Clor, Flaco Jimenez, Richard Genesee, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, Ida Beza Gardner, and Carla Sierra. I appreciate the support there. Again, if you like what we are able to do here, talk about the issues that affect us in the borderland like no one else is going to, because we get told a lot how we're supposed to think, feel, etc., by people outside of the area, but we need to have that discussion on our own here. However we come to it, just know that just yelling at people saying, well, you're a bad person, therefore I can't believe you, literally ad hominem, but also not actually responding to the arguments there. Let's talk about the issues there, as opposed to saying, well, you're bad, therefore you're always going to be wrong. You're kind of conceding the argument there. But in any case, so we do have that phone line open as well. If you prefer to get on that way, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Did want to mention, of course, that interesting and potentially developing thing going on, just along a different border New Mexico and Texas specifically, and that of El Paso and the city of Sunland Park, that there's a lot of possibilities that have, well, always been present there, but more specifically than that, there's been a couple of developments of note that connect a few dots for me here. So I'm going to make the argument as brief as we can before we get to that next hour. But specifically, two things have come out within the last week or so about a potential new arena or amphitheater, depending on how you put it, a 28-acre facility that is being looked at potentially right next to the Sunland Park Racetrack and Casino, right across, well, Sunland Park Drive itself. So technically, kind of, if I'm getting my directions right, kind of to the northeast of it, northwest of it, more accurately. In any case, yeah, across Sunland Park Drive. So if you keep going south from the State Line restaurant, that kind of thing. And that's an interesting possibility of that being some kind of entertainment facility, but also it has come out more recently as well that actually it is that Sunland Park, or well, the thing right next to the Sunland Park Racetrack and Casino, Western Playland. And yes, I'm of the age where I'll eat my broccoli. Definitely triggers me a little bit. And yes, that dates myself, but that has actually been sold to a new management and investment group, which is very interesting. And so the reason I bring all this up, besides there being more development in the area or changes, movements, which is why I say the economy is interesting in this area, even if some national trends, and again, the technical recession or not, a lot of varied economic indicators, the fact that there's still willing to be investment in this area is why I still remain kind of bullish on the borderland in a lot of ways. But this is a little bit, connect a few other ideas with it. Had reason to go over to Sunland Park Mall, of course, within the city of El Paso on that side. Intended to go to the food court, but we ended up wandering our way down to the new facility there, the Monkey Rocks area, because I had heard of it, but hadn't seen it yet. And it's an interesting kind of comboed place here, not trying to do an advertisement for them or anything, but ended up eating there and seeing some of the facilities there. And the fact that it was, new in a mall that I've been to for years now and had seen kind of a general decline in is different there, but there's also some new entertainment facilities. So it makes you wonder if there could be a burgeoning or potential kind of entertainment corridor going on basically all along Sunland Park Drive and across state lines that way. Now, that may be a little bit aggrandizing to call it that, but it's an interesting trend. And, I'm kind of interested in looking at trends, but you can comment more about that and more about the possibility of what you think about that as we got to take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we will go ahead and we'll get to the top of the hour. But again, opening up those phone lines as well. If you want to get on the line, again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso. Again, that number one more time, 915-544-5876. Back after this break with more and the top of the hour news. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier crash, I-10 westbound after Yarborough Drive exit is still blocking 3 left lanes, causing a huge backup. Now another new accident, I-10 westbound at Zaragoza, blocking the right lane. Stop and go traffic on the I-10 westbound from the Loop to the Patriot. It's a 47-minute delay. 7-minute delays I-10 eastbound from the Patriot to the Loop. And an injury accident Gateway West after Sumac Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
38 years ago, Greg Abbott's back was broken, but his spirit was not. Greg Abbott never gave up. Today, that same determination drives Greg Abbott to keep Texas strong. That means expanding opportunities so Texas continues to lead the nation in job creation, energy production, and exports. It means ensuring our police are fully funded because we can't prosper unless we're safe. It means securing the border to prevent deadly drugs and gangs from entering our country. And it means funding education so every child has the opportunity to succeed to their God-given potential. As governor, Greg Abbott has always had big dreams for every single Texan.
Through hard work and big dreams, each of us can succeed. Texas is the place where that promise still remains true.
Governor Greg Abbott, securing the future of Texas.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. Because you never hear this.
Hey, hon, I'm late. Chris, I am so pleased you missed the beginning of our meeting.
Thanks for making me wait, Dad. I talk to a lot of strangers.
Check on your commute. Stay informed. Traffic and weather all day. Or you might never hear the end of it.
Well, you were late to our anniversary dinner that one time.
Yes, how could I forget?
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690 KTSM, an iHeartRadio station. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeartRadio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The man accused of attacking House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband is being charged with attempted murder. The San Francisco District Attorney's Office announced the charges today against 42-year-old David DePop. He's accused of attacking 82-year-old Paul Pelosi with a hammer after forcing his way into the couple's home on Friday. Pelosi suffered a fractured skull, but is recovering. President Biden is accusing oil companies of refusing to lower gasoline prices despite record profits in the third quarter.
Rather than increasing their investments in America, their excess profits are going back to their shareholders and they're buying back their stock, so the executive pays are going to skyrocket.
Speaking from the White House Monday, the president said he will work with Congress to impose a higher tax on excess profits if companies don't bring down prices. Wall Street is posting big gains for the month despite closing lower on Monday. Markets made a huge comeback in October with the Dow Jones notching its best month since 1976. The blue chip index soared nearly 14% since September. For the session, the Dow Jones lost 128 points to 32,732. Members of the Republican Party reportedly expect former President Trump to be indicted soon after Election Day. Lisa Taylor reports.
GOP aides and strategists are planning on Attorney General Merrick Garland pursuing an indictment in relation to Trump taking highly classified government documents to his Florida estate. One GOP aide said any indictment would probably further polarize the nation and potentially could strengthen Trump's support from the Republican Party's base. Another Republican said Garland most likely has a strong potential case against Trump, but said prosecution would most likely plunge the country into a worse situation. I'm Lisa Taylor.
The Philadelphia Phillies play host to the Houston Astros for Game 3 of the World Series later tonight. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The Hurricane Ian death toll is still rising in Florida. The State Medical Examiners Commission reports at least 122 fatalities have been linked to Ian as of Friday. Records show Ian is the deadliest hurricane to strike Florida in nearly 90 years. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer debated his GOP challenger, Joe Pinion, Sunday night. Sarah Lee Kessler reports.
Chuck Schumer has represented New York in the Senate since 1999 and defended his record as one of Washington's top Democrats.
In the last 2 years under my leadership, the Senate has had the most productive session in decades.
He cited the bipartisan infrastructure law and the COVID-related American Rescue Plan. But Joe Pinion, a conservative Republican and former Newsmax anchor, took issue with that.
The response to COVID caused the inflation, the printing of money, $6 trillion of worth to deal with that virus of foreign origin.
1 in 3 businesses in the UK hospitality sector say they expect to be operating at a loss or fold completely by the new year. In London, Laura Macon-Isherwood has more.
Operating costs are going up as the number of dinner reservations being made in the UK continue to fall. The latest survey carried out by UK Hospitality found 3/4 of operators have already reported a fall in the number of people going out to eat or socialise, and 8 in 10 expect that situation to worsen. According to data from credit and debit card operator Barclaycard, more than half of Brits are planning to cut down on non-essential spending in what's normally a bumper trading period.
Rihanna's new song is already proving to be a big hit for her. Lift Me Up dropped Friday, and with almost 25 million listens on Spotify, it gave Rihanna her biggest streaming day of her career. The song from the highly anticipated Black Panther sequel, Wakanda Forever, marks her first new single in 6 years. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Cash. That's cash. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by News Nation. Chris Cuomo is back with a new show on a new network. Catch Cuomo weeknights on News Nation at 6 and 9 p.m. Mountain.
To find News Nation on your television provider, go to newsnationnow.com/join us.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Step inside the iHeart House of Halloween on the free iHeart Radio app. Turn up the most haunting hits on Halloween radio. Crank up the fear factor in your neighborhood with Haunted House Radio in 3D. Or grab your headphones for irresistible podcasts, including Season 3 of 13 Days of Halloween, Devil's Night. A wicked good time is waiting for you now. Download the free iHeart Radio app for all the radio, music, and podcasts you love.
iHeart Radio.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of housing discrimination.
It's so wrong.
But who has the power to stop this?
You do. The law is on your side. If you've been discriminated against because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status, file a complaint with HUD. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
Visit HUD.gov/fair housing. A public service message from HUD and the National Fair Housing Alliance.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Appreciate you all being there, chiming in as you choose to do so, or even just dropping those likes and interact, which we also definitely appreciate, including Calvin Williams, Angel Rueda, Ed Clora, Flaco Jimenez, Richard Janasic, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Ida Beza Gardner, as well as Carla Sierra. Some little algorithmic things. Happy Halloween to y'all. No, I am not in costume for any of those out there in radio land. Had put together one, but then I realized, given that we don't really have office parties anymore, I know where to wear it, because a little past the age for trick-or-treating here, and didn't do many of the parties due to other commitments over the weekend. So, well, at least I got my costume for next year together, probably. I don't know. Maybe I'll change my mind by then. But if you are celebrating and going to be giving out, Eric, I mean, we're coming up before too long on that time. It came to my attention the other day that there are actually some cities and towns and places that have like designated trick-or-treating hours. I have never heard of that happening here in town. If it is a thing, and I've looked at it for a couple of years there, but I've never noticed that there's something that we actually set that way. So I'm not sure if we're just that kind of free-for-all kind of mentality we have here in town. But let's just say dark till about, like 9 or 10 is about what I expect here in town. But if you were one of those procrastinators and did not go out and get candy, you may just be, well, let's hope you got some cleaning supplies handy and your house doesn't get egged or TP'd, because it's largely out in town. We actually went around yesterday, not to get candy, but we're looking to maybe grab an extra bag or two. And boy, were they out, specifically at where were we at? The Walmarts over on the Westtown Marketplace. I mean, there was candy, but there was Christmas candy, and Patty Diaz from our sister station, Power 102.1, saying zero candy at the Walmart in Horizon. It's 100% Christmas candy. Hashtag procrastinator and hashtag Merry Halloween. That's a pretty good way to put it there. So hope that you all are prepared for it, and you get more treats than tricks, but again, your mileage may vary. Because, I mean, and yeah, I'm not wearing the costume on air here today because I may be too sarcastic to call myself a totally serious newscast or anything like that, but I think it's a little bit bad taste to be wearing a costume when trying to talk about very, very serious things happening. Again, definitely still sarcastic, don't worry about that, but I don't know, this doesn't fit with me in my strange sense of, how things should work during a broadcast here, I guess. Robert Gable also chiming in. Good afternoon to you as well, and all the assembled ladies and gentlemen. And Flaco Menace confirming and concurring rather, saying I was at Walmart a couple hours ago and the candy shelves were bare. Yeah, that sounds about right here. And some other conversation about some of the things we're discussing here, including a Flaco Menace saying that the investment in Western Playland, saying this is exciting. Western Playland needs new blood. Also good that private investors are interested in our area. Again, I'm always interested in what's going on with business development. Sure, we've been very focused on elections and such, and we'll continue doing that. Of course, all of this leading up to our election day or election night coverage, I should say. We'll, of course, do the regular show and then be going from 7 p.m. on, go bringing you live election night coverage here, checking on, of course, some of the closest running races, the local ones as well, including some of those national vote totals where the balance of power within the House and Senate lie, those kind of things, as well as some of those statewide totals. So stay tuned for all of that coming up on election night. But let's dive back into those phone lines now. Again, if you want to get on the line, chime in that way. Full up at the moment, but the number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Hector in the Lower Valley right here with us right now. Hector, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
This is my first-time caller.
Absolutely. What do you want to? What was on your mind?
It's on the issue of all these killings in the United States. We have forgotten what made this country the greatest country in the world. When we take our God from out of the schools and out of our government, I mean, why is it the criminal system only takes care of the criminals, but not of the victims? I mean, if these people go out and kill all these kids, where are the parents?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you don't know what your kid is doing, you know, I'm going to give you a simple explanation. I got two daughters, and they're 4 and 6 years old. One time I said, you know what, Mika, how much evil is in the internet? And they're 4 and 6 years old, and I was amazed. I mean, the little one said, you know what, Grandpa, it's 80% evil and 20% good. This is the evil that is brought about parents not taking care of the kids, taking God out of their lives. I mean, you cannot do nothing with all this technology and doors. I mean, if you don't take care of the kids, the parents are responsible. Like this evil one that came, all these people in El Paso. I mean, where are the parents? They should be liable for everything. Why is it been taking so long to get this evil one to be taken in to die for all these kids? Not only in El Paso, I mean, it's been going on forever. And people don't understand that the teachers are not responsible for the kids. The parents are responsible for the kids. And if you don't understand that simple fact, we lost this nation. Because if a guy goes into it and he gets weapons and gets all these, I mean, it's evil. The evil in the world is taking over. We lost what this country was founded on, which is the Lord Jesus Christ. And and I don't care what religion you believe, if you don't believe that, all our kids are full with this filth and evil. Because you could just do one key and they get all the evil in the world. It is so bad that those parents that do have these kids and don't get responsible of what they're doing, what they're looking at, and they just go by and go get guns and kill all these innocent lives, angels from heaven. I mean, we lost this nation. And then the other point I'm going to make, and then I'll get off of it. Why are the criminals have all the rights? How the system cannot take all the belongings, all these kids that kill all these, and give them to the victims? The victims have to pay their funerals, all their expenses, and we take these criminals, these evils, and give them food, school, and whatever. This guy must have some rich parents, so that he's staying under with all this evil that he did to our city. And I'll just take your response off of the air. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you very much for the point in the call there. A lot you brought up there, so I'm going to try to break it down and respond in order here. Firmly in favor of people finding their morals, their instruction, their teaching on wherever works best for them. But I will say that the lack thereof here, I mean, my personal experience was I was never prevented from talking about my morals, my upbringing, my beliefs, my faith, anything of that, or with anyone else within school, but it wasn't a part of the curriculum. That's a difference, I will say here. And so by saying taking it, I mean, again, I literally went to Bible schools in there, but I will say this: nature abhors a vacuum. And when we see the influence of something waning, such as, say, as you kind of bring up here, the church or religion of any stripe here, that if there's not something there to kind of replace it, to step in, then, well, something will. And whether or not it's good or not is a different question. Let me just say there's a lot of people, I think, that assume things will be taken care of, that once the kids are out of the house, a school will take care of everything, right? And no, that's never what it was intended for. It's not intended to be a replacement for you as a parent. So if you're not doing something, and I'm not saying you specifically, caller, here, but rather that people in general, if anyone out there is of the belief that school will take care of everything and I just got to worry about, feed them and clothing them when they're at home and then send them off and everything will be taken care of there, that is a, whoa, that, oof. I can't even really understand that kind of a standpoint, to be perfectly honest with you, because not instructing your family, your children, those kind of things in your morals, your values, what's important to you and your family is just, well, it's a recipe for disaster. So I will say this, it can be seen kind of demographically that, I mean, with more people saying, claiming to be, atheist or a-religious or, agnostic in this country, and in a lot of places, I mean, it can be seen in Europe as well. Not necessarily totally worldwide. There are some places where there is increases, but still, within a lot of Western nations, it has been a trend. And let me just say this, that the idea of there not being anything to replace it, because, again, get your morals wherever works for you. Follow your beliefs and get the instruction to those that you want to, but there's nothing to replace it. It kind of just leaves this, again, a power vacuum, which ultimately gets filled. And the way that ends up getting filled may not be a good thing. I mean, there used to be this whole concept of, well, to use an older phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. And that oftentimes was centered around, the institutions of the community, whether it be, a church, synagogue, mosque, what have you, that those would often be the center for those kind of things. And still in a lot of places are, but that influence has been waning. So I'm not sure if there has been a quote unquote good replacement for that. Because sure, if people are making their own choices, that's fine, but it does leave a gap that I feel does need to be addressed somehow. I don't think it should be done governmentally or by any kind of like, okay, well, here's our rote solution for it. I think that needs to be something that people need to be paying more attention to, not to overuse a phrase, but to wake up to the fact that if you're just assuming it'll be dealt with, that's a bad plan for upbringing here. And just as a final note there to kind of make there, that we are, of course, keeping up on what is happening with the August 3rd case here, and everyone is entitled to their opinion on what they think the outcome should be, but we're going to be very focused on bringing you what the updates are, what is happening with that case, and making sure that it is carried out as fully and completely as possible, which is part of the reason we bring you your updates. And while we use very specific phrases such as we the indicted shooter and making sure the trial is carried out successfully, even if there have been a lot of questions on that here. So thank you for the point and the call. Do appreciate it. I think a lot out there may share levels of your concerns, if there are more specifics on how we go about dealing with those in our community that we need to get to here. So thank you again for the point and the call. Do appreciate it. Let's get to one more call before we get to that next break. Right now, again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Andrew, I wonder who is supplying these individuals with these flags, these individuals that were trying to cross in the downtown area.
So again, according to the CBP statement on this does seem to have started as a protest. So it was something that was planned in its own right, and whether or not the crossing was, that I'm not qualified or know the exact details to comment on, but it did seem to start as a protest, which makes slight more sense, even if the ultimate action of then crossing with it is, again, just the optics of that alone got to make you wonder what exactly was your goal there with that protest then at that point.
Right. Next point I wanted to make, and that's a very good information you passed on, but sanctuary cities and Pelosi's assailant.
Mm-hmm.
It was stated that he was in the country illegally after his visa expired.
Yep, that is a circumstance that happens as much as, particularly in our community, we have focus on border crossings, legal and illegal, of course, as both, for commerce and those kind of immigration issues. It's estimated that somewhere around maybe half, particularly of, this is more a stat fact from the, 11 million, those unauthorized in the country, that kind of stat, was that about half of those weren't people who physically, crossed it or like walked across anywhere, but rather like flew or took boats or other transportation in and then overstayed what were, legal processes at the time, visas or authorizations like you mentioned there. So, yeah, I can't say, it's not focused, again, not by much on us here, but it's definitely a significant portion of that conversation that we don't really focus on that much here, I'll admit.
Yes. Well, sanctuary cities say that they want to reduce fear of deportation and possible family breakup, for people who are here illegally. And believe me, the state of California has legislation in place that establishes a statewide sanctuary for undocumented immigrants. And also that county there, San Francisco, will not report anybody to the ICE, or do they honor ICE warrants?
Yeah, that, makes sense. I'm not as up on California as a lot of their more specific laws, but let's just say that tracks.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate, that it happened to Paul Pelosi. It's unfortunate that crime by these undocumented immigrants or these people who overstay is occurring, to anyone in the United States. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I turn the mic back over to you. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much for the point in the call. Do appreciate you. Have a good one there as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more of the calls on the line, as well as a lot more of the, things we do at this point during the show, comments and everything. We got more commenting coming on there, including some questions about some of our programming. Let me look into that for you here. But all that and more to come up after this break. Again, the number to get on the line, if you choose to do so that way, is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Finally, some good news on the I-10 westbound this afternoon after an earlier crash at Yarborough exit. It closed the entire freeway westbound on the 10. All lanes are back open there. Still got a 12-minute delay from the Loop to the Patriot. 7-minute delay from the Patriot back to the Loop on the I-10 eastbound. Border Highway eastbound at Padres, an injury accident, and a crash reported Joe Battle northbound at Montwood. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
News Radio 690 KTSM and Scott Heating and Cooling want to provide a local veteran with a heating and cooling system upgrade. Tell us about a deserving veteran you know who would benefit from a free new refrigerated AC unit. Who are they? How have they positively impacted you, their families, and the community? Nominate a veteran you know today at ktsmradio.com.
This report is paid for by the Texans for Greg Abbott.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
Beto O'Rourke stands with radical groups who want to defund the police. Governor Abbott stands with law enforcement so they can keep Texas families safe. Greg Abbott, governor.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know how important it is to be confident in all of life's close-up moments.
And bad breath can rob you of your confidence.
Yeah, it can. Whenever I'm rubbing elbows with celebrities or friends or just chilling at home, I got to make sure I have the confidence that comes with Smart Mouth mouthwash.
Smart Mouth is clinically proven to eliminate and prevent bad breath for 24 hours with just 2 rinses a day.
Get to your favorite retailer right now for that kind of better together confidence.
Find Smart Mouth at your favorite retailer or at smartmouth.com/radio.
Hey, I'm Steve Ranella. From the rainforests of Alaska to the coast of Hawaii, I follow trails of all kinds with good friends through wild places. This is our land, and this is our season. Stream the premiere of Meat Eater Season 11 exclusively and free of charge at themeateater.com. And while you're there, find incredible deals on some of my favorite hunting gear from First Light, FHF gear, and Phelps game calls.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-989-8906 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-989-8906. That's 800-989-8906. What do you have to lose? Call 800-989-8906. Again, 800-989-8906.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show, whether you're tuning in on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in there, dropping those likes and reacts that we always do appreciate, such as, getting the full list here, Flaco Jimenez, Calvin Williams, James Holmes, Carlos Sierra, Angel Rueda, Ed Cloro, Richard Janisic, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Ida Beza Gardner. Again, do appreciate it. If you like what we do or are able to do so with the conversations we have, again, drop that like and react. Some of the other conversations going on, some talk about heritage and people's points of origin, genetically and family-wise speaking here, including Austin Redfern saying 3 of my grandparents are from Mexico. I'm 100% American and grateful for it. Eric von Holstein Rath a little bit earlier saying, as a son of immigrants, I'm proud of my Danish heritage, but I'm 100% American. And who else here? Maria Coleman in that same vein saying, my family is a diverse blend of culture, a blend of diverse cultures, rather, ethnicities and faiths, never a problem, proud of all we are. And Robert Gable also saying thanks for the interview with Yvette Harrell last week, and saying more specifically related to that the Congresswoman will be out for a meet and greet in Chaparral tomorrow, Tuesday at 12 noon, and is inviting everyone to come out, including Frankie and Northeast Raul, among other things, and specifically at 498 McCombs Road. Thanks for sharing that. And one other comment I wanted to make sure we get to here, if I can find it here. I want to say that it was, I'm missing it here for a second. We got too many comments, and I tried to get to a bunch of them here, but that essentially that, Sean Gardner said it, that more specifically, that egging a house is a very specific exercise, and mess around and find out is the way. I'm definitely going to say that at this point in time, which I can appreciate and understand here. So yeah, more comments like that coming in. So if you want to add your 2 cents over there, more than welcome to. Kevin Wons, apparently I'm wearing your write-in voter candidate costume. Is that correct? No, I am not on this ballot, and absolutely no plans to be anytime in the future here. Maria Coleman saying specifically that you'd like to know where our mayor is today. Lisa was quick to note Venezuelans need to be treated with respect when entering. CBP are also entitled to humane treatment. Just kind of related to that, I actually have an updated statement from the CBP that, yes, there were Border Patrol agents that were involved in that response here. So specifically, a statement attributed to Landon Hutchins, U.S. Customs and Border Protection Office of Public Affairs. Update that a Border Patrol agent was assaulted with a rock. Again, part of that, what we were talking about right at the top of the show about what was going on in that response, kind of right underneath the Border Highway West extension. Didn't look like it was too far from Spur 1966. You could see UTEP in the background of the video, done from partners of our news partners. We're getting too complicated there. KINT in Juarez, showing video from that of a protest turning into a border crossing, and the CBP response there with pepper balls and crowd control measures. So again, that an ongoing one here. But let's get back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call if you want to get on the line full up at the moment, but we'll keep taking them, is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We have Stephen on the east side with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
That is exciting that Western Plainland got bought out. And my understanding is they're going to build maybe a flagship roller coaster. I think that what that means is, like, if you're driving by, you'd be able to see it from the highway and maybe attract a little bit more attention.
Potentially here. Some of the reporting going on, specifically quoting when it came up right now, KVIA here, Traders Village, the company that is purchasing it here and plans to they have some, it's part of a recent set of acquisitions more specifically. So it's an interesting possibility because, of course, Western Playland, despite its own bit of controversy, including moving and some disagreements with the county of El Paso back in the day. I actually had a birthday party back in the day when it was still over there at Escarate. But of course, it's still, visible-ish if you know where to look. But increasing visibility, as you mentioned there, that's an interesting concept that could be done.
Yeah, and related to some of the calls that came in, it is kind of crazy that that guy went in there and attacked Paul Pelosi. And that with the security that I suspect that the Speaker of the House has, that he was able to get in there. My understanding is he was kind of a hard drug addict, and like the other caller mentioned, he's overstayed his visa, and maybe that all could have potentially been avoided if he had been removed to the country. I think he was from Canada whenever they found out he was a hard drug user. But that's one thing that people don't really consider when they think of drugs. And a lot of people say, well, it's just, it's my body. I can do whatever I want to my own body. But I think as a society, we have to consider that a lot of times these drug addicted people, they do affect other people. And a lot of them have drug induced psychosis, and they attack other people. And also most of the abuse and neglect of children is by drug addicted parents. So as a society, we need to work on these issues. And another previous caller, I think his name was Hector, addressed that a little bit, that, the parents and the family are really important when it comes to creating a society. And if you take these other things out, the morality, the religion, the belief in God, and those kind of things, like you mentioned, that something is going to fill the void. And sometimes what's filling the void is a sickness, an addiction, and some other kind of religion, even though some people don't want to call it a religion. They fill it with something, and sometimes that something is not good.
Yeah, again, nature abhors a vacuum, and that applies both in the physical sense, the physics sense is the where it comes from, but also, socially here, if there's an influence that was there that then wanes or disappears here, if it's not being filled somehow, whether you be joining other groups or societies, and just to make something clear here, not necessarily apropos to what you're saying there, Stephen, but the idea of saying that you have to get your morals somewhere is being seen as anti-non-Christians here, you need to revisit that statement here, because that would not be accurate. Find your morals wherever suits you, but you do need to find them, because, again, if you don't, you're probably just subscribing to someone else's if you don't actually realize it.
Yeah, something I've noticed recently is it seems like like this belief in Gaia, a lot of the people who are really hardcore climate change fanatics, those people, I see a lot of parallels there between that and Christianity. Like there was this Garden of Eden, a pre-industrial Earth state. And then, the sins are, you drive your car, you breathe out carbon dioxide and you pollute the planet. Those are like your sins. You've got the people who they even pay indulgences in a way that the celebrities that fly around in their jets or have the yachts and all that stuff, if they pay enough money to whatever green cause, that's the way that they pay their indulgences, kind of like they used to in the Catholic Church. And, you've got the priesthood, which is like the IPC scientists, and then of course there's the apocalypse, the end of the world, the climate crisis apocalypse that people believe in. So right there, that's a form of religion that, if you think about it, at least I see a lot of parallels there. I know it's not exactly the same, but people believe in a lot of that stuff, and without looking at a lot of the data and the history to back it up, a lot of exaggeration going on there. And then when I was listening to the break, there was a news report saying that the Democrats are going to put windfall taxes on the oil companies. Perhaps they're going to try to do that. And if I were a journalist, here's what I would do the investigation on to find out if that really makes sense. If journalists are doing their job, what they should do is they say, how much extra profit are those oil companies making? Let's say it's $10 billion an oil company makes, and you say, oh, that's extra, more profit than you normally get. And then I would say, well, how many gallons of gas that they sell in the country, and how many cents per gallon would that be if they didn't take that profit? And don't be surprised if it adds up to 3 or 4 cents. It's not a lot per gallon that companies are making off of the profit. It wouldn't necessarily make a huge difference. So a lot of that is emotional appeal rather than something that would logically make a difference. So if I were a journalist, I would look at those numbers. And I haven't done the investigation myself, but that's what they should be doing if they really wanted to inform people.
Well, fair enough here. Well, thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah, anytime that we start getting beyond facts, figures, and like verifiable, definable things and start getting into, well, this is what, once you start getting past, again, facts, verifiable things into dogma, regardless of what it is, or orthodoxy of any stripe, whether it actually be religious or not, because there are plenty of kind of things that, well, even statedly atheist ones, Russia under the USSR comes to mind here, where there was definitely dogma. And if you were in a contravention of it or whatever it was that day, you were going to have issues. But it's no longer based in like reality. All of, the 5-year plans that were breaking their goals entirely and we're going well past them when that wasn't actually happening. So yeah, that's why we try to focus on, reality or the parts of it here. There's some questions about Calvin Williams asking, would it be wrong if an oil company made $1 profit on every barrel or even every other barrel? He goes on to add there. So, I think that there's, I think it's an easy target right now, but drilling down into the actual facts here, facts end up usually not fitting anyone's neat narrative, and I don't care which side you're talking about on. But in any case, we got to take that next break. Now, coming out of this break, get into more calls online, more of the comments, more of everything we do at this point during the show. So go ahead and take that break. Again, that number to call if you want to squeeze in full up at the moment. But again, the number is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. A Las Cruces man has been sentenced for his part in a kidnapping where the victim was repeatedly stabbed with a machete. A judge sentenced 37-year-old Fernando Angel Puga, a.k.a. Cholo, last week to 372 months in prison, which amounts to 31 years. In 2017, Puga and another man asked a food truck driver for help because their car had supposedly broken down and they needed a ride. They ended up kidnapping the man after pulling a gun on him and informing him of their real intentions. The other man pleaded guilty guilty and is serving time in federal prison. And after ranking 7th nationwide in best cities for veterans in a study by Veterans United Home Loans, El Paso County plans to celebrate its claim as the, quote, veterans capital of the USA. The study compared the 100 most populated U.S. cities across 4 key dimensions: economic wellness, employment, availability of veteran affairs benefits, and quality of life for veterans. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Traffic is smoothed out on the I-10 westbound this afternoon after that crash. I-10 westbound after Yarborough has finally cleared. All lanes are back open there. I-10 eastbound is slow from the Patriot to the Loop with 7-minute delays. Slow traffic on the Liberty Expressway eastbound from the Gateway to the Loop with 7-minute delays. And Border Highway eastbound at Padres, an injury accident there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. A chilly night on tap for the Borderland, even for those late night trick-or-treaters. But as we get going into our Tuesday, we are expecting to have a beautiful day. Temperatures back in the mid-70s, and we're staying that way at least for the next few days until our next weather maker begins to bring back some winds, a little moisture, and cooler temperatures. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
This report is paid for by the Texans for Greg Abbott.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
Beto O'Rourke stands with radical groups who want to defund the police. Governor Abbott stands with law enforcement so they can keep Texas families safe. Greg Abbott, Governor.
At Affordable Dentures and Implants, that moment when we see a patient smile is everything to us. And we're proud to have helped millions of patients improve their smiles through affordable tooth replacement options. So whether it's a single tooth, full dentures, or dental implants, Affordable Dentures and Implants is here to help you. Go ahead and smile. Our new El Paso office, led by Dr. Kiso Uradiegu, is now open at 11917 Gatewood Boulevard West in Las Palmas Marketplace near Kohl's. To schedule a free new patient consultation, call 1-800-DENTURE or visit affordabledentures.com. That's 1-800-DENTURE or visit affordabledentures.com. Again, our new El Paso office is now open at 11917 Gatewood Boulevard West in Las Palmas Marketplace near Kohl's. Affordable Dentures and Implants. Go ahead and smile.
Go ahead and smile.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
Beto O'Rourke stands with radical groups who want to defund the police. Governor Abbott stands with law enforcement so they can keep Texas families safe. Greg Abbott, Governor.
This report is paid for by the Texans for Greg Abbott.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at KTSMradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Interesting points being made up there about some other experiences as kind of one of our top stories of the day. Of course, the incident at the El Paso kind of nearish UTEP Spur 1966, the flying overpass that is the Border Highway West extension there. So it is technically on the other side of the border fence, though on the other side of the river. The legalities get layered and complicated once you get over there. But of course, one of the updates coming from the local CBP office that there were 2 officers assaulted as a part of that, one with a flagpole and one with a rock. More updates probably coming from our news partners over there at KFOX 14, so stay tuned for that here. A couple other comments coming in related to it here, including Angel Rueda saying, a coworker of mine in Eagle Pass once tried to stop a large group of migrants crossing the river. He was hit on his face by a rock. Long story short, he required surgery to repair his orbital bone. could have been worse. Same for those agents today. Certainly hope that your coworkers had a good recovery and that no one got significantly hurt in today's incident. Again, a lot more details hopefully coming out of that. Glenn Stewart on a lighter note saying happy Halloween to you as well. Definitely. And other discussion going on about profits, margins, and things like that, including Calvin Williams saying, name another product that sells for more than $50 that doesn't make more than $1 profit, or piggybacking off his previous comment of name a product that sells for more than $20 that doesn't make at least $1 in profit. Marky Mandingo with an interesting juxtaposition I hadn't considered there, saying illegal dope in New Mexico is making massive profits. Interesting point to be made there. And also then Flaco Jimenez saying, I drive through the Permian Basin 5 days a week and observe all the oil-related activity. Most people have no idea about how much money the oil companies spend to explore, lease, drill, transport, and refine our gasoline and diesel, not including the high wages and benefits for the employees. I think people may be most familiar with that last part here. I mean, there's been the odd job fair or similar kind of thing that has come through the area, heck, even on our airways sometimes, and, ads in between breaks of, six-figure salaries for truck drivers, which if I could keep a vehicle on the road of that size and confident in my ability to do it, man, that's tempting sometimes, I got to say, but I kind of prefer to do it the way we are. Though Marky Mandingo saying, I wish I had chosen welding at a tech center in high school. Interesting point there. And Flaco is saying, yeah, you'd be making six figures easily. Again, tempting, but we'll keep doing what we're doing here. So let's get back to those phone lines now. Kevin Williams saying it's never too late. Listen, if you want to get me off air, there's got to be better ways to do it here. Anyway, let's get back to those phone lines now. We do have Nate on the east side with us right now. Nate, thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. I'll be very, very brief. I didn't hear the whole conversation regarding the responsibility of school and parents. I caught the latter part of it, but I believe I'm chiming in on the right topic. As a parent who brought two successful young men through school here in El Paso, and I tell you what, you would often hear, and having quite a bit of experience in the school districts across the county here, that comment about parents, and I'm not saying it's just here in El Paso, Texas, it could be anywhere, okay, about it's the teacher's responsibility. I'm sure if there's many teachers out here in the audience, they could probably call in and attest to this. You do hear that quite often. It's the teachers. I want to just cap this point, and I understand. And what I've told my son, by the time they in a school, the school is better. It needs to be better because you are there. There's one teacher assigned to a classroom, and that teacher is to teach the multitude of those 15 or 20, whatever the ratio is. However, you don't have a right to go in and be destructive or distractive and to take away from those others who try to learn. At the same token, you don't do no harm. So parents are responsible. We're our children's first teacher. And any institution that's going to survive have to have rules. I know of no structure, team, gang, you name it. They got to have rules and guidelines. If we lose all of our rules and guidelines in this country is going to sink just like the Titanic would have. So our schools is our educational institute. There got to be some rules, and parents are responsible. So I'll stop there and turn the mic back over to you, Andrew.
All right. Well, appreciate the point and the call and the thought there. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right. You have a good one there. I mean, yeah, anyone abdicating the responsibility for moral, for, life skills, those kind of things. You learned all that in school, didn't you? Yeah. I don't get it. I just flat out don't get it. Anyone saying that, no, they took care of it. All I have to do is feed and clothe my kid, and then there's someone else's problem. Like, oh boy, I don't even know where to begin with that kind of a thing. Because if you're not, again, I guess it's just one of those facts of life here that the skills required to have children are nowhere near related inherently to those required to rear children. Let's just say the physical act of creation of children, the other phrases I'm not going to use here related to that, again, has nothing to do with then what it takes to then raise a child to maturity and, as a successful and, well-rounded citizen, a future adult themselves in this country here. I mean, I'm not saying that has to be your goal here, but that has to at least be a part of it. Because if they're just thinking, well, how can I best have, like, say, a personal servant here? What kind of a kid are you raising then? And we're saying, like, well, it's not my problem. I'll just, it's someone else's problem when they're at school. Yeah. There's just so many it almost gets back to a kind of a core concept of the shopping cart theory. Personal responsibility, another way to put it here, is are you taking care of the things that you have put into the world, sometimes literally and physically that way, or are you abdicating your responsibility and kind of getting away with it because there's no immediate repercussions in some cases here? And I continue to not get or understand that here, because you got to find your morals somewhere. And if you're not teaching your kids whatever is important to you, that's just setting them up for, well, why do kids join gangs? To go to kind of an extreme example is because they kind of crave that hierarchy, the inherent, because gangs, as bad as they may in generally be in varying degrees in between, they have kind of a self-consistency within them, don't they? They provide a hierarchy, they provide ways for advancement, they provide some of those things that will tell you what is right and wrong, even from a incredibly skewed viewpoint. And that's why they are attractive in some ways. And for those that have nothing else, if they're left adrift, you're going to cling to whatever piece of driftwood you find at first there. So let's go back to at least one more call here, squeezing in what we can. We do have Raul in the Northeast in line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. So a couple of things. First of all, Beto is not for defunding the police, okay? Democrats want police protection. We all want police protection. That is a lie. He might have said something stupid. You know, politicians say stupid stuff all the time, and lie also, like President Trump, former President Trump. President Biden is not for open borders, and again, nor are Democrats. You know, taxpayers are paying billions of dollars for border protection. And we've had surges in illegal immigration in the past. Nothing new about that, you know. Now, a loser president organizing and executing a coup based on a lie that the election was stolen from him, all to keep power, that is totally unprecedented and historic. Now, about a local issue, let's talk about local plutocracy and corporate welfare. Do you remember when Farrow Manufacturing was still in business?
Slightly before my time, but yes, I'm aware of and where it was, and why, of course, the fountains at Farrow is called what it is.
Right. I grew up in that area. My parents bought a home there when they were developing Chula Vista Park, before the mall was built, actually. So as you know, they went out of business because greedy capitalists wanted to make their clothing in China or anywhere else where there's cheap labor, just like Donald Trump did, you know. And so, you know, it was there. It was they kind of tore it down, and they just left it there for a long time. And then El Paso's probably only self-made billionaire purchased the property, and then he sought and got a tax abatement equal to the cost of clearing out the demolition that had been taking place. Now, the owners of Chula Vista Mall, Melvin Simon and Associates, one of the biggest, if not the biggest mall owners in the country, said they weren't for the tax abatement. They said they didn't get one. The owners of the shopping center further east out there by the Loop, also a very wealthy family, they were against an abatement for that property. Said that it was unfair. They had tried to get one, and they didn't get one. But the guy who purchased it, he did get one. Now, he didn't really need one. He's a billionaire. And that property would have been developed one way or the other. There's no way that he would have let that primo piece of real estate just sit there without eventually developing it. And they made money from it. So that's because they are able, he and his ilk are able to purchase enough politicians in El Paso to get what they want, which was corporate welfare in this case. Another time, it was a toy for the rich boys. You know, they want to have a ballpark, so we'll tear down City Hall and we'll put our ballpark on there, and it's a money loser. Most folks don't care for baseball. I don't care for baseball. Like most El Pasos don't care for baseball, and probably most of them couldn't even afford it. So this is what plagues this country. It's in every city, every state, all the way to the federal government. We have a plutocratic system where the best politicians, plutocrats can buy, and that's why America is ailing and has been ailing for a long time. And that mindset goes all the way to the founding of the country, where they thought that you can own people. That's their idea of capitalism. Or you can steal other people's properties under, manifest destiny or whatever you want to call it. And one last thing about gods. Most of the world doesn't believe in Jesus, okay? In China, most of the folks are atheists. In India, which is the second most populous country in the world, they're Hindus. And then there's the Jews. There's all kinds of faiths.
Sure.
So these people want their faith in the classroom. When the fact of the matter is the teachers and parents, they do the best they can to instill on children the idea that stealing is not right, hitting people is not right, lying about people is not right, and a whole bunch of rules that you can go to any campus and find them there posted. So, get a life, those folks. These are all the distractions they have for the guy that they went all in on, who's turned out to be a totally disastrous presidency, who wanted to have a coup to stay in power.
They're connecting a lot of disparate ideas there. Let me just say that, wherever you find your morals, please do so, but do find your morals. That's the important part there, because if we're just, again, adrift on, I'm going along with what everyone else thinks is fine, that's not a good way to live either, I gotta say here for. And I do think that anyone saying that, I want my religion in the classroom and therefore getting rid of, this country was founded on religious liberty, the freedom to choose and practice as you believe. And anyone saying, I want mine to be supreme over it, that's literally how civil war is not the civil war in this country, but say the English Civil War, among others, were started by that kind of a kerfuffle. So I'm not interested in anyone trying to through governmental means trying to get supremacy for their own, because down that way monsters lie. But to say that incentives to promote private business are a bad thing is, I'm not quite following you on that. If anything, that would be probably one of the best and most basic things that a local government could do, is to try to improve prosperity. So if you're unhappy about who got it, that's one thing, but saying it shouldn't be available to anyone here, I'm not quite following your logic on that one, because, sure, it's been a successful development, but of course it hadn't been done before the individual you're referring to there stepped in and decided to try to, abate that property. And frankly, I think that would serve a good local government purpose, to have that property no longer be blight, eyesore, unusable space, because any factory, when your walls aside, once it's sat for that long, probably isn't going to be that able to be used without having to be torn down. Exactly. I didn't see the FARA facilities, but having gone through the former Sarco facilities some years ago at this point, more than 10 years ago at this point, now that I think about it, it couldn't just be turned back on. So demolition was kind of the only real solution there, among other things. So anyway, got to take that last break right now. Coming out of this break, going to be closing up the show. Tell you what coming up for you, and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash is blocking the left lanes in both directions, north and southbound, East Paisano Drive at Gateway. An injury accident, Sean Haggerty southbound at Gateway South. Traffic slow on the 10 eastbound from the Patriot to the Loop with 6-minute delays. And police still working an injury accident, Border Highway eastbound at Padres Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is paid for by the Texans for Greg Abbott.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
Beto O'Rourke stands with radical groups who want to defund the police. Governor Abbott stands with law enforcement so they can keep Texas families safe. Greg Abbott, Governor.
Hello?
Mike, this is Norma Jean at Sergio Lewis Body Shop near the airport. Have you seen Sergio?
I'm expecting him in a few minutes to cut a new commercial.
I'm really worried about him, Mike. He really believes he's a poet. It's gone to his head.
There's plenty of room up there. Anyways, his poetry isn't that bad.
Will you please have him call the shop?
Sure, Norma.
That's Norma Jean, Mike. Gotta go.
Yee, she's feisty. Hey, Sergio, there you are.
Hey, Mike, I have this great new poem. Check this out, man. Sometimes even our darkest moments are enlightening. Hey, what's so funny, man?
Nothing, Sergio, really. By the way, Norma Jean called.
Really? What did she want?
Oh, she was just telling me what a big fan she is of your poetry, Sergio. Sergio Lewis Body Shop at 3800 Admiral near the airport, where it's the customer's choice, not the insurance company's, and there's a lifetime warranty on all collision repair. 593-0191.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. That's going to about do it for us here today. So if we weren't able to get to your call today, don't worry, we'll be up again tomorrow, as we are every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., getting closer to Election Day. And what we got coming up for you, getting a little bit closer to some of those very local elections, including some of the city council races, among other things. I think it looks like we're probably mainly focusing on the 1st and the 6th districts, some of the most populous races. So squeezing in what we can as we get ever closer to Election Day. So that's going to do it for us today. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Do appreciate it for its own length and measure, because what we need to do is talk about the issues that we are talking about and need to delve into here. So gonna have to leave it there for today. So thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. See you again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. In the meantime, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening and happy Halloween to you all out there. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash is blocking the left lanes in both directions, north and southbound, East Paisano Drive at Gateway. An injury accident, Sean Haggerty southbound at Gateway South. Traffic slow on the 10 eastbound from the Patriot to the Loop with 6-minute delays. And police still working an injury accident, Border Highway eastbound at Padres Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Stay informed at KTSMradio.com.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM. KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690. News on the hour, radio station, traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The man accused of attacking House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband is being charged with attempted murder. The San Francisco District Attorney's Office announced that and other charges Monday against 42-year-old David DePape.
The defendant is expected to be arraigned tomorrow afternoon. My office will be filing a motion to detain him without bail, and that is based on what is obvious and severe public safety risks that the defendant poses.
That's District Attorney Brooke Jenkins. DePape is accused of attacking 82-year-old Paul Pelosi with a hammer after forcing his way into the couple's home on Friday. Jenkins described the violent and scary encounter between the two men. President Biden is calling for a new tax on large oil and gas companies